This is the download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news in the business of podcasting. I'm Gavin Gaddis. Here's what you need to know for today, Monday, March 2nd. First up, the revolution in the podcast business according to the people leading it. Ashley Carman's soundbite has a new issue covering Bloomberg's Podcast Business Summit last week at On Air Fest. Industry executives greatly value video podcasting in their media strategies going forward. Kara Swisher, if she had to start over today, would start on YouTube. Goalhanger co-founder Jack Davenport said the company no longer produces new shows without YouTube presence and is enhancing existing video to surpass talking head footage. Swisher noted podcast live events continue to make money, and fast. A recent pivot tour hit 7 cities in a week, netting $2 million in revenue and generating 7 podcast episodes with ads of the recorded live performances. Next up, IAB Australia publishes 2025 Internet Advertising Revenue Report. While the full IARR is limited to IAB Australia members, they've published a detailed overview this morning. Overall, the Australian internet advertising market grew 11.5% year over year, reaching $18.4 billion AUD for 2025. PwC Australia's data finds video advertising is the strongest performing segment in the country last year, with 19.8% year-over-year growth, or $5.4 billion. Audio isn't slacking either, growing 8.2% year-over-year to hit $339 million AUD. The overview notes podcasting outpaced streaming audio growth. Next up, Oxford Road announces the Indie PAC Awards. The Independent Podcasting Creator Awards, or Indie PAC, are designed to specifically honor independent podcasters and creators. The event is hosted by Oxford Road and founding sponsor Libsyn. The inaugural event is set to take place Sunday, March 15th at Evolutions by Podcast Movement in Skybox on 6th Street. Qualifying shows and channels require full creator ownership and editorial control. That means no platform ownership or exclusives. At least an episode per month in the past year, and not primarily a promotional vehicle for a top-tier celebrity using a podcast secondary to their main career. The full list of nominees, judges, and methodology can be found on the Indie PAC site, and Oxford Road founder Dan Granger has dedicated the latest episode of Media Roundtable to discussing Indie PAC. TV is shifting to performance. Audio should follow. Audion co-founder Arthur Larrey shares a new op-ed in Advertising Week. The ad industry prioritizes revenue impact metrics over impressions and awareness. Connected TV serves as a big example of this, with attribution, access, and AI-enabled campaign optimization putting CTV in a position where it can compete for budgets traditionally meant for search and social campaigns. If audio wants to compete, audio needs to adopt similar metrics. Larry's 4 key areas for audio attribution are addressable scale, establishing credible third-party measurement, in-flight optimization capabilities, and dynamic creative that can adapt to the context to improve response rates. With these upgrades, Larry argues audio can earn its performance credentials on top of its existing audience and cultural relevance. Next up, and our final top story for the day, as video podcasts boom, SAG-AFTRA looks to organize the industry. SAG-AFTRA National Director of Contract Strategic Initiatives and Podcasts, Sue Ann Morrow, tells The Hollywood Reporter the union expects to cover more interview podcasts and narrative podcasts moving forward, in addition to SAG-AFTRA's existing presence in the scripted drama and audio fiction world starring union actors. Currently, 2 podcast contracts exist in the union: micropods that earn less than $10,000 per season, and independent podcast agreements for shows earning $10,000 plus per season. A complicating factor to all of this is the broadening definition of what is a podcast, as well as the industry conversation about interview podcasts being, effectively, daytime TV talk shows made at a fraction of the budget. Morrow notes that actors taking video podcast contracts aren't necessarily taking a pay cut in comparison to signing a comparable daytime TV contract. Contract coverage also applies to guests in addition to hosts. A union guest can waive their appearance fee, but their contract aims to cover them if it is wanted. And for the rest of the news, it's time for our quick hits. Goalhanger's political podcast, namely The Rest is Politics, The Rest is Politics US, and The Rest is Classified, uploaded 4 emergency episodes on Iran strikes over the weekend, generating 3 million plus views, streams, and downloads, specifically 1.3 million for podcasts in 48 hours. Focus 360 LLC has named Karen Henderson, formerly of Katz Media Group, as their new Senior Vice President of Sales. RSS.com has implemented support for Podcasting 2.0 feature alternate enclosure, allowing podcasters to attach alternative media files to an episode using externally hosted URLs. The latest episode of Podcast Advertising Playbook features True Native Media's Heather Osgood interviewing Sounds Profitable's Brian Barletta on the subject of attribution in the age of audio and video podcasting. Supercast CEO Jason Siu Hoy was interviewed by the Podcast Business Journal about Supercast's acquisition, creator model, and the $26 million payout to its top 10 creators. Backyard Ventures signed comedic history podcast Softcore History, serving as their premium brand partnership rep. And finally, ESPN's 30 for 30 podcast has announced a new 6-episode podcast titled The Fastest Girl in Somalia, covering the life of runner Samia Yusuf Omar. As usual, you can check out the links to everything I just talked about by clicking the link in your show notes to take you to today's episode post on soundsprofitable.com, where you can also subscribe to get the newsletter version of the download emailed to you every single day. Today's issue of the download was written by myself and Emily Ely. Thank you, Emily. And the download is produced by myself, Brian Barletta, and Tom Webster. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. Download us again tomorrow.